Senator Ossoff, Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Jackson, thank you for being. Senator Kennedy was asking you about the expanding the court, or what we call court packing. You said, I haven't really thought about it, but I hear the arguments on both sides. And I hear the argument on both sides. So could you briefly describe to me your perception of the arguments on both sides?
I've just heard people talking about putting more justices on the court, expressing concerns that the court has become politicized, that the court has become unbalanced in terms of what people perceive to be views of the majority of the justices. And so I've heard arguments about rebalancing the court on that side. And then there's the argument that many on the dais have stated about the inappropriateness of doing so, the concern that it might lead to some kind of a war of every time there's a new president adding justices to the court. Constitutional and important, and the First Circuit agreed. I think ultimately.
Can you understand how some of us may think that your compassion could lead to bad results based on the numbers that we have here with recidivism? That Congress may need to work more on that to make sure that we get it right. Can you understand how somebody who, from our side of the aisle, could see that maybe there is some pattern to give the benefit of the doubt to someone who has been incarcerated, in some cases with very serious crimes?
I don't recall saying anything about compassion in the way that you're describing it.
No. I'm just saying that if I take a look at your responses to some of my colleagues' questions and your statements to some of the defendants, it seems as though you're a very kind person and that there's at least a level of empathy that enters into your treatment of a defendant that some could view as a maybe beyond what some of us would be comfortable with respect to administering justice.
Thank you for letting me clarify. The statements that I made about my practices as a trial judge, which I'm no longer a trial judge, but were intended to explain how trial judges operate and how they impose sentences within the framework that Congress has provided. This
context, we understand the wisdom, the inherent wisdom of the document, and the fact that we're still here.
The reason why I did that, I've said, is because I recognized as a defender that there were lots of people in our system who, instead of taking responsibility for what they had done and then ultimately understanding the harm and potentially not doing it again, instead of that, those people were bitter, they were angry, they were feeling victimized because they didn't get a chance to say what they wanted to say, because nobody explained to them that drug crimes are really serious crimes. Nobody said to them, do you understand that there are children who will never have normal lives because you sold crack to their parents and now they're in a vortex of addiction? Do you understand that, Mr. Defendant? I was the one in my sentencing practices who explained those things in an interest of furthering Congress's direction that we're supposed to be sentencing people so that they can ultimately be rehabilitated to the benefit of society as a whole.
I just still note that virtually half of those people, statistically speaking, that you gave that speech to within 8 years were back in prison, and in some cases for more serious offenses than the first incarceration.